You're listening to the Grit to Growth podcast. Real talk with real business owners and professionals who built their freedom the hard way and now want more time, money, and impact.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Levi Tesla, and today's guest is Owen Reimer. He's the founder of Stone Shore Capital, and he's spent nearly 20 years building a 100 million plus track record and properties in development. Owen, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
when you say the 20 years, it kind of I have to think, how is that possible? But here we are.
well, why don't you, before we actually get into Stone Shore, let me hear kind of how the 20 years started then.
Yeah, the 20 years would be not necessarily a Stone Shore story. It's my track record and looking back at how did we get to where we are today in private equity for the most part. Background, grew up small town farming family, so I understood, the what hard work is. We grew up on a dairy farm. Then I spent a bunch of years in the financial services world, and a big chunk of that when I was on my own was raising capital in private equity. A lot of it
Okay.
being real estate deals. So we raised a lot of money in the real estate space for other operators in Canada, particularly, or operators in Canada that had deals in the United States. I'm based in Canada. And and so you got to see a lot of what was going on before we jumped and do our own projects internally. So to kind of get rid of the piece that I couldn't control was, let's say, an operator that, the deal looks great, you know, property looks great, investors happy, I'm happy, but then you have an operator that maybe doesn't come through with what they said they're going to do. And as the capital raiser in that instance, the investors looking at me saying, what, you did something wrong. In the meantime,
Mhm.
I had no control on something that should have worked out great. So
You're the face to that person, right? So they don't know the back end. You're the face of it. You're gonna get any blame or glory, but
exactly.
in this case, it sounds like some other things were happening.
So long story short, we got out of the financial services back at the end of 2019. Spent a year kind of, that was the COVID time. There was a bunch of things kind of up in the air. What do we do? Figure out the drive. What are we doing? We'd had some private businesses as well. I had a business where I owned some of the real estate that we were operating out of. The business itself didn't work out great. I ended up losing quite a significant sum of money. Lesson learned. No
We
investor
all
money,
need
just
those.
just my own. And we'll call it is a very is education, a very
That's right.
Ivy League education I got. And but the real estate did fantastic. And through that, that's what kind of saved my bacon. In the end of the day, I didn't lose overall. I learned. And so I think the big thing is when you go through situations like that, it's like, what do you take out of this? Do you just bury your head in the sand and forget about it? No, I talked to guys maybe 20 years ahead of me, and they said, okay, now you've had a good size loss. Welcome to the club,
Yep.
and move on. Like, forget it, like, take what you learned and move on. And that was really great advice. The quicker I do that, and you don't focus on the past and live in that spectrum, because that'll really just, you know, keep you from doing anything productive in not just in business, but just in life in general. You focus on your losses. But everybody has some kind of loss, and if they're not, then they're not trying hard enough.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's a big red flag if you go up to ask someone, well, what's something you learned from it, and they don't have anything. I think is a huge red flag.
Yeah, then then there's something going on in the background. But
Yep.
that's fine. I mean, so then we definitely pivoted into going, saying, well, why don't we start building some apartment buildings where we live? It's, our vacancy rates are very low. We're very stable overall. There's lots of unique programs that were coming out in terms of financing structures. Um, I don't really have a construction. I did a little bit of construction back many years ago. I have a little bit of like, if I don't know it though, I'm going to go find somebody who does. So we've done that. We found the people who know the things that we don't know and plug them in to help us along. And we learned that we have a bit of a mantra where we say, crawl, walk, run. We learn slow on something, so we make our small mistakes first, and then we expand it each time going forward so that by the time we get to a bigger project, we've kind of gotten rid of the little mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and we can kind of not, those don't slow us down and we can focus on growing without little hiccups along the way. Yeah, so a lot of times we're looking for deals where we can buy the land, maybe rezone it to a higher density or just buy something that's existing that's shovel ready, come up with a plan and get all our financing ordered, all our funds. We raise money from a lot of local investors, a lot of guys, a lot of couples, people. They may have a couple rentals themselves, like we'll call them single family rentals,
Yeah,
and they're just
absolutely.
tired of it. Like that's the reality. And I never did it when I was a financial service guy because I saw all these clients of mine that have these single family rentals and they never made any money. Like they made money when they sold, right? But in the
Yep.
meantime, they weren't making any money. Their inefficiency of operation was, I'm like, no, thank you for me. So we never touched that. I just jumped right into multifamily with like started a 16 unit, then a 20 unit, and then a 36. We renovated a 32. We're starting this next week a 32 unit, and we have other land under contract to kind of keep it rolling. Could I do more at a time? Yeah. But at the same time, I also don't like want to overstretch. I don't need to build crazy. I don't
Yeah.
need to build 200 doors at a time just to keep a machine going because there's no, all it does is cause more stress. I have to hire more
More
people,
headaches.
create this bigger game. And like, and I don't, end of the day, I don't make any more money. So I'm like, I'll just do what I'm doing, enjoy the ride, provide value for those investors who are tired of managing their own properties. And they'll say, you do it all. Here's the money. Let's have a good time. So
What's the cliche? The
that's
2
about
a.m.
it.
toilet calls, right? Isn't that what they say for?
Yeah, like I mean that's a bit extreme. Like a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
times that doesn't really happen. It's 6 in the morning because they slept. They didn't go to the bathroom at 2 in the night. So it's stuff like, my AC's leaking or this. And so we just get to the size where you can have a property management company take care of all that stuff. So that all we get is we just know that it happened. We just see that, oh, that happened. If it's above a certain threshold, then they call us for dollars. But if it's below a certain amount of money, we don't even get a call. They just handle it.
Let's walk through a scenario for people listening. Say, yeah, I am someone who I've, owned three single family homes. I'm getting kind of sick of what's going on. I call you up. What is it, the process you're taking me through then?
Well, I mean, often I find out what's their why, right? Why are they calling? What do they want to talk about? Typically I'm not going to talk about a deal. Often we don't have a deal available. That would be one thing we're trying to work on. But I'll try to figure out what's their goal in mind. If they want like a savings account, like I want to put my money in and out, not a fit, right? We want to find out what are they wanting. Are we long-term growth? They want an inflation hedged, growth, predictable long-term asset. Real estate, something you can touch. If they're local, it's something that, they can maybe drive by and say, hey, I own a piece of that. There's a little bit of a feeling for that. Everybody kind of sees real estate as especially where we are, as a long-term asset that provides good value, right? We're not a New York or a Toronto or a California, like big areas, or even I don't know what other areas, or place that we don't dip. We just kind of
Yeah,
go. We're probably very much similar to Sioux Falls type of thing, where it's like we're not really got anything special, but we're just steady growth.
we are steady Eddie, insulated,
Boring,
constant,
boring,
no
boring.
big highs, no low lows, steady growth, baby.
Yeah, so you keep out a lot of the really big stuff. Operators don't come here, like because it's just like it's not big enough, which is
Yep,
great because it allows us smaller guys to take advantage of the markets and provide great value for ourselves and our investor partners. So yeah, we'll talk about what their goals are, what do they want, what's their time frames, things like that. And then we take a look to see if it's a good fit. This is what our deals look like. This is what the expectations are. The big thing for them a lot of times is it's real estate without any signing on the dotted line as a limited partner. They're not liable for anything going wrong. Like their
yep.
only thing at risk is their capital. They of course either have to qualify, in terms of an accredited investor or something like that. There's some other exemptions here in Canada that they can qualify to invest under. But yeah, we're just trying to see if it's a fit for both of us in terms of money and what the project is, what their timeframes are. I mean, I keep telling people it's like, a year into it and I need to go buy a boat fever. Don't call me.
Yeah.
Unless you bought the boat, we can go out, right?
Then you could call it, if you know the fishing hole. They don't
Yeah,
like sharing that
I
though. I
like I
found
like
out people around here.
I like fishing when somebody else knows where the fish are because I don't have a boat and I'll just go along and I'll just have some fun. But that's typically what we're doing. And often we're talking about stuff. The best time for me to do my capital raising, in a nice way to say it, and build those connections is when we don't have a deal. Because there's no pressure on anybody. I'm not raising any money. You're not giving me any money. Let's talk about what we do. You tell me what you're looking for. And when there is a time for us to raise capital, if it's a match for you at that point in time, great. If not, that's okay too. I'll still be, I'm not, my life doesn't revolve around people giving me the money or not. I'm not gonna cry about it. So we built a bit of a system up in with some what I learned a little bit from the Raise Masters I was involved with for a little bit, of just, we call it a nurture cycle where you just connect with people, they can see what you're all about, and you just keep in contact with them. They can understand who you are and they get to know what you are and what you're accomplishing and what you're, providing value to people. And then
Agreed.
when
Yeah.
there's a deal available, they can decide, yep, I'm in on it, right? Instead of, hey, I got a deal. And they're like, whoa, whoa, I need to get to know you first. We
Yep.
always to get to know us when there's not a deal, so that you're not having that. It's not pressure at that point. They've decided at that point when there is a deal available, they already decided, hey, if it looks kind of checks my boxes, I'll jump on board. If it
Exactly.
doesn't,
You got to get them to know, like, and trust, right? That's always
that,
the key.
that's everything in life, right? We work with trades. We want to work with trades that we know, like, and trust as well.
Yeah.
Because we're entrusting our investors' money to getting that job done as well. So, we want to make sure our plumber does a good job, shows up, gets things done. Framers, concrete guys, the whole 9 yards. It's all got to flow nice and smooth. So we're very fortunate where we live. There's lots of fantastic trades, hardworking guys like that. We call it I don't know, they have a small town. Like town we live in is like low 20s people.
Hmm.
We serve a bigger, like maybe about 100 and 150,000, radius of people, like our service center. We're about 40 minutes outside of Winnipeg. So it becomes a bit of a hub.
Yeah.
And the Winnipeg guys love hiring our local trades because our guys show up on time, get it done on budget, move on. No nonsense, easy to
They're
do.
not playing the game of scheduling out, too many jobs and then cycling their people through them. And you might have a guy on your site that day, you might not, right?
Yeah, and that's the last time we hire that guy. That's just how that works.
Absolutely.
And and I mean, where we grew up, and the way I grew up, and the way my partners, like, it's not just me. I have some partners at Stone Shore Capital level, because exactly that. If it's just me all by myself, that's a risk, right? What if I do something offside?
Yep.
That's the last thing that anybody wants to deal with, besides myself, of course. But having those partners allows us to operate and also, sober second thought. Like, I got a great idea and now I bring it to my partners and they look at me and go, Owen, that's a great idea. Go for it, right? Or you're an idiot, slow down, right? So having the thick skin to say, okay, they're saying you're an idiot, not because I am, totally, just because they look at it and say, no, like it's a correction thing. We're here to help you out, right? We're doing it out of
Yeah.
because we like you and want you to do well. So that's the thing too. Our investors, like, yeah, they see me as mostly the front man and the guy talking about it. But there's a group behind me that's just, just as dedicated, and it's not their day to day, but because I don't, the capital raising the per project, it's not a day to day part. My day to day is
Yep.
like developing, getting, by the time we go on the ground, like we have starting probably in 2 weeks, or in the building permit phase right now. When we go on the ground in a few weeks, we've been working hard at this since February, right? Every week there's something going on, whether all the planning involved, revisions, and this and that, back and forth with the city on drainage, contractors, lining it all up, banks, etc. So everybody says, "Oh, oh, it's gonna be so much work now that you're doing construction." I'm like, "No, that's the easy part for me."
Yep.
So
Well, that wants me to lean into. I think more and more people are becoming aware of these opportunities, but that brings in an influx of newer people who that's kind of the secret sauce, right? Is leveraging your knowledge on how to do those, and they get a kind of, lack of a better term, ride your coattails in, correct?
yeah, it's funny. You see around like some guys try to kind of copycat it a little bit and
Yeah,
try to figure it all out. And I actually am willing to have chats with them and talk about what we do because it's not really, you know, they sometimes think it's a lot easier than it is. It is easy, not easy. It is doable. You just have to, it takes a lot more time than a lot of people expect to do
exactly.
it right and not overextend themselves. And I've seen that often where guys will build something and think it's the greatest. We're going to build this and their price is just they just get way over budget
Hmm.
and they realize they maybe didn't like it. Now they're upside down a little bit on their debt and it's not cash flowing right because they went too small because they tried to do it just themselves or just with them and their buddy
Yep.
and just trying to make a buck. And I'm like, oh, good for you trying to make a buck. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes just, trying to do it all on your own gets a little bit messy. Um, and then they don't want to get, bringing along a partner to help out that could, really expand it out or give them sight lines on it. They don't want that. And that's okay. They can learn. So, and if it works out for them, fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. But I often find they struggle a lot more than they need to. Uh,
Yeah, they could. It's almost. It's kind of like you want, you realize a single family home. You skip that phase of the and knew the scalability, right? It's almost just like skipping a phase in there by having a quote unquote almost mentor or partner, right?
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, where we're looking at, long term for us is like I don't have the crystal globe on where to build apartment buildings around where we live. When we go outside of kind of our geographic area, I'm looking and saying at that point in time when we do those deals, we'll find, depending on how much we're involved or not involved, but the idea is to find an operator in those areas that makes sense, right? Like
Hmm.
exactly, like you guys don't come up here to Steinbach, Manitoba and say, "Hey, let's build construction," because you'd lose your shirts because you don't have a hot clue. It's just like me,
Yep.
jump. I'm gonna go. Oh, Dustin and his guys there, Mailbox Money and all Boardwalk, all those guys, they know what they're doing there in Sioux Falls. I bet I could do the same thing. So Owen Reimer shows up, doesn't have a hot clue where the land is set up and everything. And I'm gonna go build apartments. I guarantee you I'm 20 grand more a door than your cost because I don't know
Yep.
anything, right? It'd take me 5, 10 years to lose a little, like learn to get to that stage. Or I could go
Why
say,
not
you know
skip
what?
that?
Or I'm like, I like that Sioux Falls area. I think that's really good. My investor group could really use some US assets in their portfolio. Why don't we just have a conversation and I'll just
Hmm.
partner with them somehow and save myself all that headache, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I think sometimes people need to um, maybe the right way to swallow their pride and just join up with people that know what they're doing and they're
Yeah,
actually go
absolutely.
farther ahead, like and with less stress.
It's
So,
just it's a cheat code basically. You hear people always talk about getting a mentor for whatever they're trying to learn, and it's someone who knows the area of expertise, where the trip ups are, and they can walk you through those. It's literally a cheat code.
yeah, I mean, one thing always people talk about is splits when we do limited partnerships and syndications, and I've actually had no real issues with people arguing about, split percentages and stuff. I guess they realize they go to say, "Wow, there's a lot of work involved. I don't want to do any of that."
If
I'll
you
let
really
you lead
lay it
all.
out and go into it, yeah, you'll realize more and more people, you could tell them exactly how it's the sausage is made and everything, and they realize, oh, I want no part of that.
I saw a list the other day of somebody that wrote it all out. I'll find it, I'll send it to you. I was like, yes. People ask me, what do you do? I'm like, here's the list. Every
Yep.
day is different. After this call, I got to go to the local power, like we call Manitoba Hydro. I got my service agreement to put in power into the project. So I got to go drop a check off there. Then I have a call with a banker at 3. And then, putting this together. It's just a run around everywhere and call a
Wear
survey.
many hats through the day.
Yeah, I call a survey company because I need some kind of survey. I can't even remember, staking certificate done on a different project, right? So it's never ending.
Well, I've got a segment of some rapid fire questions, but
Sure.
before we get there, you want to tell us kind of what's coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that you're pretty excited about on your end?
Yeah, we're just about to break ground on our newest project called it's got a long name, but we call it the Wilson for short. It's at 530 Wilson Street here in Steinbach. It's a 32 unit apartment building, um, 3 stories, got an elevator. It's definitely going to be a bit more of a higher end for like a 50, we call it mature living type apartment.
Okay.
Fresh air. It's gonna be just really nice to live there in an infill area. So it's a mature community. That's gonna be starting here right away. I haven't even officially announced it to our investor base yet, so this will be okay to say now because this will come out a little while later. We
There we
uh
go.
we closed our capital raise on it. I have a list of people hoping to still get in, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
It's a good problem to
So
have.
that's what we're starting up here. And in the meantime, I am diligently working on the next couple projects, and they're all kind of floating around in the air right now. Nothing's kind
Very
of
good.
some things that we're trying to land a couple pieces of land right now, so it's happening. So that's what we're
No
up.
lack of a pipeline then, as they say.
Yeah, I look at things. What am I doing next fall? Right?
That's a good
That's
way
where
to
I'm
do
at
it.
right now. What's happening now is what I planned for a year ago. So now we got to plan for next year.
All right, you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Go for it.
What's the dream vacation destination for you?
Oh, you know what? Somewhere like a safari African trip, like a Tanzania,
Yeah.
Uganda, that kind of thing. I'd like to go do like a big African tour, just see something totally different.
Yeah, a lot. You're obviously pretty similar to the Midwest, and as a whole nother world. If
Yeah,
you
I want to go
could,
see like big, big crazy animals up front. Maybe go do some hunting out there.
there you go.
just just see something different. Like just I've yeah, there's so much of the world that God created, and I just want to see it all. And I don't know if I would have time, so we'll work on it.
If you could instantly gain one new skill, what would it be?
Oh, mind reading.
Oh, nice. Best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. Wow. I would say be patient
Very nice.
in a lot of areas, not just that's a multifaceted term there. Be patient.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could take that. And then let's end it with what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Which would I like to do? What can I do? Uh, uh, you
Let's hear
know,
both.
lots of different things. One thing I really like to do lately, right now, that lets me really kind of just reset. I like to. There's a provincial forest about half an hour away. I like to take my quad out there and just boot around out in the woods all by myself,
Nice.
and it just lets me kind of just, you know, I guess ground. There's lots of ground there, but you see the trees, and I think trees in nature just really, really do that well. So that, or
Very good.
or you know what? I also really like to just do something with friends. Whether it's as simple as wing nights or come for dessert or whatever. Just I'm pretty easygoing in that regards.
Very good. All right, Owen. Well, thanks for dropping some serious knowledge today. If listeners want to connect with you or learn more, what's the best way for them to do so?
Probably the best is come follow me on LinkedIn. I'm on there under my name, Owen Reimer, or we got a website, stoneshorecapital.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for listening in today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Know someone with serious grit and a great growth story? Send them our way at grittogrowthpodcast.com/guest.